Okay, so just a quick recap. So calculations do help you customize your data, and calculated fields help give more meaning to some measures and dimensions. So in the example that we were talking about right before we started class, for cost, we had two different measures, and we were able to come out with a new measure called cost by subtracting profit and what was it? Profit and sales. And then with our customizing dimensions, we had our city, state, and zip code, and we were able to create one using that. And we also use a string function for our zip codes. And so in this example, I did want to just show the screenshot that we had in our last presentation, which is showing like our sum of GDP and population. And we also have that added parameter field. And so at that bottom row, you can see what the color coordination is. And so we will be using parameters, which will be shown in purple. So parameters do help the user customize their data in the view. So we're thinking more about the end user for parameters. And they are similar to variables, but I do want to hone in on that they have a global effect. And so what that means is if you have this parameter utilized in multiple sheets, whenever you go in and change settings, so you want to show some of profit rather than some of sales, whenever you toggle that, wherever that parameter is being used in your workbook, in whatever different sheets, that will occur. So if you have one workbook, if you just have multiple workbooks with the same parameter, whatever you do in showing which one to show, it will change. And so parameters can be used in supplement to filters, calculated fields. And so those are the three different types of examples we're going to be going over today for parameters. And so with each of these cases and parameters moving forward, if you do use Tableau in industry or whatever role or projects that you go and do in the future, I do want to show you guys that you can break that up into three simple steps. So make it, use it, and show it. And so we're first going to go over parameters as filters. And so parameters can be used with existing filters in your view. And these are applied as filters or reference lines. And we're going to be going through a quick example and going step by step on how you can create this parameter for this example. And again, these slides will be uploaded after class. And when you go through these slides later down the line, go into presentation view and just go through each motion. There are a lot of animations, and I do think that's the most beneficial way to go over them. So your example, so your executive board wants to see the top 3 customers, and your marketing team wants to see the top 25. So you go in and you have, you create your bar chart. So you have your sum of sales in columns and your customer name in rows. And so as you see, you have a lot more customers than 25. You have a ton of customers, and you want to be able to go through and show these 2 different stakeholders that dashboard. And so you can go in and create 2 different dashboards and send them out to 2 different groups. But to make your life easier, you can go ahead and create a parameter and send that same workbook so both parties can utilize the same dashboard and see the different data that they need to make their business decisions. So again, following those 3 steps, we're going to go and first make it. And so while you already have customer names in your filters, you can go in and right-click on filter. So right-click on that customer name in that filter box, and you can go and edit it. And so in the past, we've just used general, but there are also different types of filters that you can use, such as wildcard, condition, and top. And so for this example, since our execs want to see our top 3 and marketing want to see our top 25, we're going to use that the top filter And so we'll go ahead and when we're in the by field, we'll make sure, hey, we're going to be looking at our top, and we're also going to be using a new parameter. And so when you click new parameter, you have your parameter box that is shown. And so it is highlighted in this orange color. And so with our name, I like to personally set parameters to have actionable titles so that our end user knows that they can interact with this component of the dashboard. So we can go in and name this set top end filter so that we can indicate, hey, you can set whatever number you would like to know, and you can see this. You can shift this later on and view however much you want. And so there are different allowable values down here, all list and range, and so we're going to be using range for this. And so going in to show it, so after we've created our parameter, there will be a new like table box at the bottom left of your data pane. So we're used to seeing our dimensions and our measures, but now we're going to have this little area down here for our parameters. And so all we have to do is right click our set top end filter and hit show parameter control. And now we're going to see our parameter control on the right hand side or on our top right. And so what this is now showing is the top end filter. So if we wanted to see your top 15, we can go drag the slider to 15, and there we have it. We can go drag it to top 3, and it will show our top 3 customers. You can drag it to 25, 50, whatever, and your end user will be able to manipulate and change the information that they're seeing. And so I do want to emphasize this is parameter as a filter. And so while the parameter control, so this set top end filter hill isn't anywhere on our view, it's being utilized through our filter. So if we were to remove customer name out of our filter, we would no longer see it. Okay, so before I jump into parameters of calculation, are we all good? I know it's a lot. If there are more like in-depth questions, we can go ahead and answer those like in office hours or right after the quiz, so we have time to discuss. No, this is not on the quiz. The quiz is going through 1 through 4, so don't worry about parameters for this quiz.
Could you just go back and show us how to like get the parameter onto the filter?
Yeah. So when you right click on your filter, you'll be able to hit edit filter. And so you access the parameter control through this area, which says like create new parameter. So it's a drop down that you can interact with, and then it'll show enter value, create new parameter, and also the existing parameters if you have any. And so for this example, we would be creating a new parameter, and then we would go and fill out the necessary criteria for this one in particular, and then hit OK. And after hitting OK, it'll show up in our bottom left right here. Yeah, so what did I do to the filter? You just have to right click your filter and edit the filter. So we won't be going through the demo today just for the sake of time, but there are already demos online that show essentially how to go through this step by step. So going into parameters as calculations, this will allow you to see your applied calculations in different ways. And these parameters only affect the other sheets with the parameter and the calculation. So in the past example, we were talking about things in filters, but for this parameter to work, you need the parameter and the calculation. And so our example is going to be exploring we want to know how an increase or decrease in our sales will affect the performance of our regions. So in this bar chart, we have our regions, our central, east, south, and west. And then we also have our rows showing our sum of sales. so their performance. And you want to know if there is a projected increase or decrease, how will that affect the upcoming performance for like the next quarter or next year and so on. So again, we go through our 3 steps. We can start off with make it. And so in creating a parameter, it is similar to creating a calculated field. So you'd go ahead and click that little triangle next to the search pane within the data pane, and you would go and give it an actual name. So I titled this adjust the percent change in sales, so that you're giving a call out to your end user. Hey, you can interact with this and you can show in a percentage, by typing in a percentage, you can show the impact that it will have on our region sales. And so this is a different view. So in our display format right here, it says automatic, but since we're going to be dealing with percents in this example, we have to make sure we maintain that that correct presentation. So we go in and we edit, okay, we want to show a percentage. So this is the number format that we saw earlier in our class a few weeks ago, and we're just utilizing that again with the percentages. And so once you click percentage, you can go ahead and hit OK, and then you create your calculated field. So this is, again, so hitting that top left caret, you guys have all done this in your homework. You create calculated field, and you essentially name it and tell Tableau what you have to add within your calculation. So in best practices for using parameters, you add the prefix of p dot to indicate that there is a parameter within the calculation. So I named it p dot adjusted sales calculation. And so we're going to be having our measure of sales and multiply that by our function or our parameter. And so the parameter, again, is going to be something that the user will be able to input on their own. So if they want to change it by 50%, they can go and type that in, and it will calculate our sales times 50%. And so in using it, we can go ahead and drag our new calculation onto the view. And so in this instance, we're going to drag it onto the y-axis. And so remember that when we see these 2 green lines in parallel to one another, that's indicating that we can create a dual axis chart. So we would be showing essentially our sum of sales and our parameter next to one another. So we would have 2 bars next to one another for each region. And so in this next slide, that's exactly what happened. And so I have a little note box if you want to go ahead and read that. But here, if you want to look at the axes, we have our sales for our central region, and then we also have our calculated field, our adjusted sales percentage. And so in showing it, we just go ahead and right-click on our parameter, show our parameter control, and now it will show on our bottom left. So it says adjust the percent change of sales. And so where it says 50%, that's what I was talking about, where the user would be able to go in, hit 50%, and the appropriate change would be made. So we have our original bar chart, and we now have our adjusted percent change. And again, so the demo will be online. So if you guys want to reference that as well to your advantage. Okay, and then lastly, for dynamic parameters, dynamic parameters help the viewer use multiple measures in one view. So if somebody wants to see the sum of sales and the sum of profit in one view, you can go ahead and do that. And so a use case for this, and rather than creating 2 different views, if it's a fairly complex a dashboard, you can go ahead and deploy this parameter. And so you would be showing two different variables. So your variables being sales and profit in one dashboard. So if you were to upload this, you and your other stakeholders or coworkers can go and see through each, profit and sales. And so with this, with dynamic parameters, there's just one more step. So you create your parameter, you use that parameter in the calculation, and then you use that calculation. So you have to deploy that calculation into the view, and then you show the parameter. And so our example is just what I was talking over a few seconds ago, which was sum of sales and sum of profit in one view. And so we're going to go ahead and make it. So we hit that top caret and we select create parameter. And so again, actionable title, select measure. Another name that you could maybe want to use would be sales or profit. And in our past example, when we had, we entered our actionable title, we left our allowable values as a range. So for our first example, remember where we had that slider, that was using a range. But in this case, we're going to be using a list. And so once we click list, the second half of our parameter dialog box is going to change. And now we have essentially just a small table, 2 columns. We have our value and our display as. And so Tableau is asking you, okay, I can show multiple options, and what do you want these options to display as? And so you go ahead and type 1. And so whenever 1 is selected, you want to show the sum of sales. And when 2 is selected, you want to show sum of profit. And so we're just building like a toggle for our end user to interact with. And then we're going to later use this into our calculated field. If you don't look at the birth certificate. So where we have our calculation, we have our, we add that P dot again. So we do P dot dynamic measure. And so in essentially, telling Tableau what to do or how to display this information, you want to be able to make sure you're speaking Tableau's language, right? So in the case of using your parameter of select measure, so the parameter that we just made, we're going to write down our different options. So when 1, then we're going to show our sum of profit, and when 2, we're going to show our sum of sales. And then we just end our quick transcription to Tableau with just 3 letters, END. So just end, and Tableau will say, okay, the calculation's valid. I know exactly what to do. Whenever the user will click 1, then I'll show sum of profit. Whenever user clicks 2, or the second option, I'll show sum of sales. And so you can go in and now drag that calculation to your rows. So again, remember, we are following best practices for calculations with that P dot. So we drag our calculation into rows. And so now we have a view. So we still have our line chart. It could be a bar chart, whatever you want to do. But what's different about this is that we do have the calculation shown. And so right now it's showing the sum of sales. And then we go ahead, click, right click on our parameter of select measure. You hit show parameter, and now it's going to show on this top right. And so now you can shift through your select measure of sum of profit and sum of sales. And so again, that would be showing your end users that, hey, you can interact with this and you can actually see 2 different dimensions, or sorry, 2 different measures or variables displayed in this one viz. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I just did want to go over really quick. So we're going to have similar homework for parameters. I'm extended the, this should say November, but I extended it to November 13th. So this next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday at 11:59, feel free to reach out to me for office hours or whatever. more than happy to help. But of course, you can also follow the demo YouTube videos to follow along. So let's go ahead and head over to iLearn for that.